Welcome to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So, stay with us as right now we present. Oh, this is so exciting. We've got a wonderful gal from Canada here, and we've got a world premiere. We have a world premiere we're going to talk about. And Randi-lee Bowslaugh is here. And how are you, honey? How you doing?
I am good. How are you?
I'm awesome. You know, you're one of my favorite people in the entire world. I say that to everybody, though.
Oh.
But
Well, now it doesn't mean anything.
Well, but for some, I mean it more than I do for others, if you know what I mean. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm assuming that that's for me.
Yes, because you're effervescent. You've got a smile on your face. You're very passionate about what you do, and you're a writer. You're a speaker. You're a podcaster. You do all of it, and it's my honor to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks. I love coming on your show. You're definitely my favorite host. I say that to all the hosts. No, I actually don't.
Well, gee.
See how it feels?
I know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. That was so. Let me repeat it. You're one of my favorite guests of all time.
Yay!
And I mean that sincerely, because we have a good time whenever we talk. We make people smile, and that's what it's all about. And you help me lead the way, and we have a really good time. And you've also you're working as a health advocate, and you're working with autism. And you know, I was so disappointed.
Why?
Because I was going to play a video for you that I just got in my mail yesterday. They were on the show yesterday, and this brand new song that I thought that it was right up your alley, that you would really enjoy, and you've already heard it.
But it is a good song, and I do enjoy it. But yeah, I did hear it already.
Well, Mary Elizabeth Jackson and Sisters J, they were on the show. Well, when this airs, they're on the show Friday, but I taped it on Wednesday, and they have a new song out which is called "Breathe In," and it's a video that's it's remarkable. They are just a cool bunch of people, and the interesting thing about it, we were talking about it uh, when I was growing up. There was a place in Seattle called, it's gone now, but it was called Fircrest School. And that's where all the kids with Down syndrome went. They didn't live at home in those days. They went to this boarding school, and that's where a good deal of them were. And so when I was growing up, you never saw Down syndrome kids, and of course autism wasn't the thing back then, and any of that. So I'm glad to see that times have changed a bit, and we're including these people with their special needs in society, and we're treating them. I'd like to think, you tell me, I'd like to think we're treating them better than we have in the past.
I like to think that too. It's actually funny you're saying that, because when I was in elementary school back in the 90s, in my school that I was at, and not every school had this, but in my school, we had a specific classroom for the special needs kids, and we had a specific classroom for deaf students. And so we would, there'd be certain classes where they would come in, like certain periods where they'd come in and we'd all be one class, and then the rest of the day they'd be in their class. But then there'd be, you could go and you could help out in the classroom and that kind of thing. So when I was growing up, it was just it was normal, because we were right there with them all the time.
Yeah, and the difference between, well, I'm talking the 60s, and you're talking the 90s. So in that 30-year period,
A lot changed.
A lot changed, and it continues to. And
Yes.
I'm really glad to see it, because in the video that we're going to play in a little bit, you can see and I mentioned it yesterday, on some of the kids' faces, you can see the unabashed joy that they have with every day, and they don't, and I don't know if it's because they are well, I don't know. Why do they seem to have they smile, they hug, they hold your hand, they do all the things that the normal kids don't do because they're way too cool to do any of that.
You know what? I have a feeling, a thought. I don't know if I'm right, everybody. I'm just making stuff up. But I think it's because they just don't care. Like the our neurotypical people, they care so much about what everybody else thinks. Like so much. And then the others, like with Down syndrome and autism and stuff, and not to say that they don't, but a lot of us, we don't care. Or we've come to a point that we don't care. That's why I'm so cheery and happy all the time, because I went through a stage where I cared what other people thought. And yeah, you don't smile as much.
You don't.
You
And
don't.
you're worried about what other people are how they're gonna perceive you,
Yeah.
and rather than just relaxing and having a really good time, I think we could learn a lot from people that have that view of life.
Yeah.
And saying, and it really was remarkable. It really touched my heart, as you can tell. That video really touched my heart because it really is something that we need to look at a lot more carefully
Yeah.
is how we're treating each other and taking care of each other, and especially, like, I think I told you before, my granddaughter is autistic,
Yes, that's right.
and we don't know she's just now 5. So we just
Oh, that's a fun age.
it is, but we just don't know to what extent, if it's gonna stay, if it's gonna resent. I have no idea how it works. You've been
Well,
around this for a
it
long.
always stays. You can't get rid of it, but you definitely can adapt and find coping strategies and learn. But it's just our brains are thinking differently, is what it is.
Mhm. And see, the interesting thing is that when she goes to school, she's the teachers say, "Oh, she's a very good student. She's a very good girl, and she obeys and does a really nice job." And then she comes home, and they go, "Where did that child go? This is a completely different individual."
Oh my goodness, that was me as a kid. Yeah. Not my kid. My kid was just a monster everywhere. Love him, but he was a monster everywhere. But no, that was exactly me. I would go to school like at that age, you know, be a great student, listen to the teacher all the time. Then I go home and have these giant meltdowns, and my mom would end up having to shut me in my room while I yelled and screamed.
And it's interesting because what I'm learning from other parents and other people, like as an example, Mary Elizabeth. She had all of her kids have had issues, and 2 of them were non-communicative, and they had to learn how to speak, and she's a really good parent in that way, but it takes
Mhm.
a special type of person, doesn't it?
I
To
really think it does. And I mean, as much as I have a kid with autism, I don't know how I would have been had he been non-communicative, like, or non-vocal. Like, I am so glad that I didn't have to experience that. Kudos to those parents. I mean, I guess if I was in that situation, I'd figure it out,
Yeah,
just like I figured out the violent meltdowns. But, I think we're given what we can handle, even when we
and
don't think so.
yeah, and the interesting thing is, what amazes me is she was nonverbal, and she actually had to learn the ABCs by doing sing song,
Yes.
and
I
so go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say there's this girl. We were at a talent show pre-COVID. So she's probably much older now, but she was maybe 14, 15 at the time. So we were at this talent show and she has autism. And they were giving the little like bio before she got on stage. Beautiful singing voice. Oh my goodness. But until she learned to sing, she couldn't talk.
Isn't that weird? Why is that? Is that just how the brain works?
I'm gonna think so, yeah. I don't think there's been any real research done into that, but I've heard it, for her for sure, but and I've seen other stories about that. And I think, yeah, I think it's just the way that the brain is adapting to learning sounds and the music helps.
Well, it's interesting because, like, my granddaughter doesn't. She communicates now, she speaks some, but she also has from the day one, she's also had this other language that she would speak. And she understood it apparently because she was trying to get my son and his wife to do what she wanted them to do using this language that they had no idea what it was. Is
Yeah.
that is that normal? Is that
I'm not sure. I haven't experienced anybody like that before. I have experienced. I used to have when I was teaching kickboxing. There was this little boy. He was maybe how old was he? Like 6, maybe 5, 6, and he had little bits of words. But really, if you wanted to communicate with him, you gave him yes or no questions. So it'd be like, okay, so we're gonna warm. Like he understood what you were saying. So I go, okay, so we're gonna warm up now. Do you want to snake crawl? Yes or no? And then if he said no, okay, do you want to crab walk? Yes or no? Okay, yes. Okay, so that's the one we're gonna do.
uh-huh.
So it's
So
it's it's
go
just
ahead.
finding the way that they communicate. We just have to figure it out because they know they're not dumb.
No. Well, I and these 2 girls, one is 19, one is 22, and they're beautiful songwriters and singers, and one of them is, in college for, drama and for, uh, creating art and these
Oh.
that and that's Lily, and it's amazing to me that you would never think that when that child was so young that she was non-communicative or nonverbal, and you wouldn't think that she would accomplish the things she has now. It just amazes me that we put labels on people and they turn out to be so totally incorrect, but in some cases those labels stick.
And in some cases, we need the labels to get the support in order to get to the place that we need to be. So, like for my kid, until he had the label of autism, the school was doing absolutely nothing to help us. But as soon as that label came, they were like, oh, okay, so this is what we can do for you. And they'd list off all the different supports now available. And it's like, hey, but he had these issues before we put that word to it. But until that word came, nope.
Now, is that because they get funding because of that
Yeah.
word?
Yep. Because now he's classified as a special needs student. So they get extra funding for it.
Wow. That's amazing to me. I would think that they would be looking at each kid as an individual, and that some kids, need extra attention and extra help. But I suppose they have to figure out some measuring stick to use.
Yeah. It's not the best measuring stick, but I guess it's better than saying, there's absolutely nothing by.
But and by the way, congratulations to you because you were a tiger in a woman's suit, making sure that he was getting the attention that he needed and the help that he needed. Congratulations, Mom.
Thanks. It was a long battle, ongoing. Next year's grade 12, and we have already went and visited the college that he wants to go to. He wants to do baking. But now that he's figured that out, he needs to do a college level math. And the stream that they had him in for math was not college level, it was below that. And so now I have to fight with the school so we can get the right math that he needs for the college program so we can go there when he graduates.
Oh, cool. He wants to be a baker?
Apparently, yeah. It's what's it called? Baking and pastry fine arts or something like that.
There is a real need in the hotel motel business that has got a lot of catering that they do.
And we
And
have oodles around where I live. We are in a tourist, like 20 minutes from Niagara Falls, right? So touristy.
oh, then finding a good baker and somebody who can do pastries and be creative with them, that's really hard to do. There aren't a lot of people that number one decide to take that up. So congratulate him. I think that really is the potential there is really good for him
Yeah.
to really make a name for himself.
I think so. And even when he was little, he'd be like, I want to bake something. Be like, okay. And I wouldn't give him a recipe or whatever. I'm like, okay, go make something. And he'd put all this stuff together and make it. And sometimes it turned out great. And sometimes not so much. But we never stopped it. My mom would come over and be like, "You're just gonna let him use all that stuff? What if it doesn't taste good?" I'm like, "Okay, then we know that it doesn't work." Like, I don't know what to tell you.
But that's part of his learning experience.
Yeah.
And so he knew what eventually he knew what worked together and what didn't work together and stuff like that. So, but I just think that it's awesome that he has a passion for something that he
Yeah.
wants to go do. That's for somebody who's going to be a senior in high school. That's kind of rare.
Yeah, I was surprised when he said, well, I was surprised at first, but then thinking about it, I'm not really surprised. But at first I was like, huh, because I thought that he was going to try and be a tattoo artist. He had talked about that. And even before that, he had talked about doing graphic design and art and all that other stuff. And then he's like, no, I really want to do baking program. Okay.
Do you know how much a wedding cake goes for when it's decorated superbly the way that, and see, he can use all of those skills in his baking program rather than, one or the other, because like
Right.
being a tattoo artist and being able to um, uh, put a terrific icing on a cake that has a message is very similar to one versus the other.
Oh yeah, exactly. And whatever they bake in class, they get to take home. So apparently we're gonna get fat while he's there. But no, when it comes to when you're saying wedding cakes, I'm laughing in my head because you're like, you know how much they cost? And really, I don't because we just went and got ice cream cake for our wedding,
Well,
and it was delicious.
yeah. But well, and yes, it would be, but no, the some of those cakes that are the hoity-toity people use or make that have got the funds to do it, they can be $1,000.
I believe
Um,
it. Yeah,
and then
just
of
get ice
course
cream cake, guys. Just get ice cream cake.
yeah, well, if you're going to feed, as an example, you have a wedding of 300. Then you're going to have several layers and tiers of the cake going up this way and stuff. And so they not only have to bake everything that make it work and ice it and all that, then they have to take it and build it at the facility that they're going to be there at. And so they have to take all of the base and then they put the next. Ask me how I know all that. I was in the restaurant business for 20 years, so
Oh,
there.
there you go.
Yes, I think that's a wonderful idea for him.
Yeah, he's looking forward to it. In fact, he after the tour, and the program looks so cool. Like every baking station has all their own tools. You're not sharing with any of the other students, and they've got like the TV, so you can like the camera down with what the teacher's doing. But afterwards, he goes, "I want to start right now." And the lady was like, "Oh, I'm glad that you're excited." I go, "Okay, but you still got to finish grade 12 first now."
Aw. And he's just going into it, so he's got the whole year.
He's got the whole year, but that's it. It's just one more.
Yes, and now is he upping his math game by taking some harder courses during that year?
Well, he's gonna have to take the correct level of math. So yes, and that will be so much fun for me to teach him.
Now, it's been a while since is it geometry? Is it trigonometry? What is it?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. It's been like but I think there's going to be some algebra which he has never done before, so that'll be fun. I think the big thing what they need for the program though is the fractions, right? Cuz when you're baking, you have all the different fractions.
Yes.
So I think that's the main concern, so that's what we're going to focus on.
Yes, indeed, because I never understood algebra. It's like, what do you mean A times
It's so easy. See, math was my best subject. I got like hundreds in the classes. Um,
well,
because
I needed your counseling then.
I tutored in college actually. I did.
Good for you. See, I never understood until somebody said, "It's all made up. It doesn't matter what you put there as long as the numbers work out." And
Well,
that's what they said anyway.
that's what's good about math. That's why I think I excelled at it was because there was only the one way to do it. Like now there's all this new ways to do it, but like there's only one right answer. If like 1 plus x equals 2, then it has to be 1. X has to be 1 because 1 plus 1 is 2. There's no other answer.
Yeah, I suppose that would be true. Only for me, it was like x plus y minus z equals -20. It's like, what?
Well, because there's rules around it. You have to make the sides match, and if you add something to one side, you have to add it to the other side, and you have to follow the bed mass rules. Like, there's lots of rules.
See, and I was never a rule guy. I say,
I like rules. I like facts. I like things being what they are. So maybe my autism's helping me in that way. It made me
so,
good at math.
yes, well, probably so. Well, and you know how I spent my high school years was playing basketball,
Oh, there you
and
go. I was not good at that.
well, I went to an experimental school. It was called Juanita High School, and it was a they called it back then a progressive school. And you had, instead of having six periods a day, you had 18. They were broken up into 20-minute periods, and so
Okay.
you could have 3 20-minute periods in history, and then you had an hour off, and then you where you weren't scheduled for anything, and then you might have 40 minutes of English and so forth, and then you had, so almost 50% of your time was free
Huh.
time.
You know what? That actually sounds better than the way that they do things, at least here, because we've done most of Lev's work all from home. He's in the last couple of years, he has not been attending, and he's been doing great. And what we've learned, and any homeschooler I think can verify this one, is that really the amount of actual work that is done in school is maybe 2 hours, and they're sitting there for six.
Yeah. Well, that's really true. But you see, what my downfall was since I would you go to home class in the morning, and then you go to your first class, and then you have an hour. Now the gym's open all the time, and it's a big gym. It was big enough where you could put the Seattle Symphony Orchestra and their trucks in the building.
Holy crap.
It was huge. It was half the size of the school. Had an Olympic-sized swimming pool, had 6 basketball courts, had 4 tennis courts. It was I
Wow.
so I would go down there and would change into my gym clothes and go play a game of pickup basketball. And there were other kids down there to do that. And then I'd look at the clock and go, I got 5 minutes to get to class. Well, I ain't gonna make it. Besides, we're losing by 2, and I've got to win. So, uh, but this is way back in the 70s. So.
You at least you were in the school. In high school, I spent most of the time at home because I skipped.
Uh-huh. Well, they didn't allow you to skip, but you know they had an interesting thing that they would do. If you missed a class, you could have 3 unexcused misses, and then they just dropped you from the class. They didn't
Hmm.
necessarily discipline you, nor did they tell your parents. And the other weird thing that they did was they graded you on the credits that you earned. So your report card that went home, remember, my folks went to school in the 40s and 50s. And so they look at the report card, and I was getting A's and B's and B's and an occasional
Oh, so
C
you were doing wonderfully.
at the work that I was doing. But if you looked at the credits that I was getting, because see, you had to go to the testing area to go do like a math test, and if it was near the end of the quarter, there'd be a line there, and it's like, screw that, I'll go play basketball. And so you could get an A, and you're supposed to get a credit for that quarter, and I got like 0.25 or point five. So at the end of the year,
Oh,
I had half a year's worth of work in. But you know that was just me.
that was, yeah, I probably would have failed. Like I would have been the same then because I just didn't go.
Yeah,
They would have constantly dropped me from classes.
and that's all they did. That's all they did, and they didn't bother to tell them, your mom and dad, or they. Of course, my mom was out a lot in the afternoon, and my dad worked, and so I always made it a practice to check the mailbox on my way home.
Oh,
You
that
know how
yeah.
that goes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. See, I just didn't need to worry about it because my mom let me skip. But she had a couple rules for it, because the time that I skipped and she didn't know I was skipping, oh, she reamed me up one side and down the other, because why did the school call me? You should have been there. What if you were dead in a ditch? Da 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 da. So her rules were, she had to know where I was, which basically meant you had to stay home. It wasn't like I was allowed to go off and play with my friends. You had to stay home and you couldn't fail. That was it. The 2 rules, right? She wanted to know
Oh,
where I was, so I was safe. And if I could pass the class without being in the school, fine then. Pass the class without being there. But if I was to fail, then I better get my butt to school. So I didn't fail.
smart woman. Smart
Yeah.
woman.
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with she fought so much with my brother to go to school and it just didn't work. So why fight with the next kid when it didn't work with the first one? Because you get to that certain age when the kids are teenagers, they're at that age that you can't just pick them up and throw them in the car. Like,
Well,
I
and
miss
even if
those days.
yeah, and even if you did, you could drop them off at the front door and they go zipping out the back door.
Right?
Uh,
Exactly.
to go do what they wanted to do, and so but I'm of the opinion that over time, see, I've been very successful in my life, so even though academically I'm not very smart theoretically, but I have a lot of knowledge on a whole bunch of different subjects. I can speak relatively well most of the time, and and stuff like that. So, you know, the heck with it. I had a great life, and I never really wanted to be a lawyer or to, and school bored me. It just didn't interest me.
School doesn't fit everyone. It's
You
really that simple. And the way that school works doesn't fit everyone. It's a very archaic system that has not gone up to where we are now. Like when schools first became a thing, it was, and I watched this documentary and I'm totally paraphrasing and I hope I don't mess it up. But when schools first started way back when, it was to pump out the students in order to start working in the factories because
yes,
the industrial revolution was happening. Well, we don't need factory workers anymore. Now we need people that come out with new and creative ideas. But schools really squash that because they're still in that pump them out for a specific purpose, not help them become who they are and be creative.
exactly, exactly, and that's where we are falling behind in a lot of countries around the world, especially the Asian countries, because
Yeah.
they've got a whole different viewpoint and they are working to get their kids to be smart at doing what they're capable of, and rather than, because we I never understood why I needed to know trigonometry when I wasn't ever going to use it for anything.
Hmm. Oh
But
yeah,
they
like I
go
said,
ahead.
I was good at math, but I don't use it. I mean, okay, yeah, I might need it for doing my taxes or something, but like I don't use it on a regular basis.
But they don't, even when my kids were in school and they're in their early 30s, they didn't teach, and I really wish they would have. They didn't teach my son about credit, about credit cards, about checking accounts and how to open this stuff and how it works. So that, Dad, but it's only $25 a month. No, it's like, if you were to pay $25 a month for that, you'd pay it off when you're my age. And
Right?
and he says, "Well, the interest rate." I said, "So what's the interest rate?" "Well, it's only 23%." It's like, and I'd like you to think about it. And but he never, it just, there's some kids it just doesn't work, and he was one of them.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah. And again, the schools aren't trying to make them life ready, they're trying to make them work ready.
exactly. But the work has changed. It's
Yeah.
now completely different.
Yeah. It's which is why I'm glad that we do most of Lev's work at home, because when we were doing math last year, I spent a lot of time because the work glossed over the credit cards and interest rates and all that stuff. There was it was there, but it didn't go in depth. So we spent a lot more time on it, and I was like, "Okay, so when you have this interest rate, this is what it means. This is how it works." And like we went much more into it because I was like, this is what you need to know to life.
Exactly. Now, did you enjoy homeschooling? Did you enjoy teaching your son?
When he listened. I enjoy having control and knowing what it is that he's learning, because when he's in school, and again, he is technically enrolled in school. The school gives us the work and I just help him do it at home. So it's not really homeschooling, but it is. Because I sometimes will go to the teacher and say, yeah, he did 5 of these 10 questions, but then we also did this because this other thing was much more important.
So, and you could do that because you were managing the curriculum, kind of, as they say.
Exactly. I just want him to have that piece of paper that says he graduates from a actual school, because it can make getting into college a little bit easier, but it's not impossible. Like homeschoolers go to college, university all the time.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. And that's really is important that you get that piece of paper. So then you can have that piece of paper and you can move on. So you have a new book coming out. Da, 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 da. Hold on. And nobody knows about this book yet. It's a secret.
It is. It's a big secret.
You know, you're supposed that's a part of being an author. So you're supposed to put your books out there. If you leave it being a secret, it becomes a paperweight.
I just wanted you to be the first one because
Oh, that's so
because I
nice.
like this. We've got good banter. It's fantastic.
Yes, it is. I really enjoy it. Tell me about the book. I'm dying to know.
So the book is called The History of I can't even talk anymore. The History of Crime Stoppers of Niagara, Then and Now. So Crime Stoppers itself as an organization started in Albuquerque, New Mexico,
Yeah.
and it has expanded to be worldwide. So the local Crime Stoppers here where I live in Niagara, they approached me and said, hey, we want you to write the history of our Crime Stoppers here so that, we have something to show people where we've come from. And I said, okay, yeah, sure. So it took about 2.5 years because there was a lot of gathering of information because it was really hard to find information. But eventually I found some good people that had been part of the board for a long time and were able to do some interviews with me and lots of different news articles. So it was different than what I've written in the past. Like, it is nonfiction because it's a history, but I had to do a lot more digging and interviews and research because it wasn't my story this time.
Right.
Um, but it's very interesting. So, for those of you that don't know about Crime Stoppers, I just find it very fascinating how they started. So, like I said, they started in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Detective McAleese, he had this idea. So he was at first, when he was on the streets, before he was a detective, when he was on the streets working, he was working in, I can't remember the name of the neighborhood, but it was like a lower income one where they really didn't trust police and they weren't going to say anything about anything. And so he's like, well, how am I supposed to solve cases if nobody's going to talk to me? So
Yeah.
he had this idea that if there was like a tip line where people could be um, anonymous, they won't be scared to talk anymore because there could be no backlash, and then to incentivize them with some kind of reward money. So we had this idea, but it didn't come to fruition right away. It didn't really happen. The very first case that they say was the catalyst to it, even though he had the idea prior to, was the Marlboro Bandits. So there was these 2 people, and they were going to, these different gas stations and holding them up with a shotgun, taking money and always Marlboro cigarettes. That's where they got the name from. And then eventually, though, they hit one of them, and the person holding the shotgun thought that the guy at the cash register recognized him, so they killed him.
Oh.
And that is when they went, okay, we got to catch these guys. They're just getting worse. And so Detective McAleese had been kind of putting this idea of Crime Stoppers out there with feelers. So that was the first time that they did a reenactment. So he went to like a local news outlet, and they actually videoed the like the scene so that people could be like, no, wait, I do think that I remember this, like something around this time, to try and get tips. And when they aired it, this is way back in the 80s. And
Way back.
hey, I was born in the 80s, way back. Um
I was 30 in the 80s. Shut up.
so they aired it, and they not only got a good tip that helped them find where that car was, because it was a very specific car, but they also got other tips that helped them solve other crimes that had been sitting on their desks waiting. So from there, it was like, see, I told you it worked, and it kind of kept rolling and rolling, and now it's all over the world. We here in Niagara, I think it was 86, if my memory serves me right, which it doesn't usually, but I think it was like 86 when we adopted it here in Niagara, and it's been going strong.
Yeah, and they by some of them buy radio time, and they have radio and television shows
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
stuff
we
like that.
have there's a local show. It's been going on for years. It's our local Kojiko channel, and they've got like an hour slot. I've guested on there too. Um, and they talk about the crime of the week, and they run the crime of the week in the newspaper as well. And now with social media, it's a little easier because they can post things faster than waiting till the next air date.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that is you created this book for them to use and to give away and to sell to other people so that they know what it is that Crime Stoppers, how it came to be and all that kind of stuff. You might get quite a few sales from that.
I think so. So we're splitting it 50-50 so that the charity gets some of it, and that's how they're paying me back for spending all that time writing it.
Right?
Um and yeah, it's really interesting because there's the base of what Crime Stoppers is, which is the anonymous tips. But then there's each individual Crime Stoppers can kind of do their own thing. So here in Niagara, the big thing that we're doing right now is an elder abuse program. So it started pre-COVID. They started with a small grant that let them do these what are they called? Like focus groups to see if
Oh yeah.
it made sense to have this program. And it totally did. The biggest thing was that there was this lack of follow-up after somebody had said, hey, I think this elder is being abused, but it wasn't necessarily a police involvement abuse, because it was maybe like financial abuse where maybe one of their kids or something is controlling their money, and the elder can't use it. So it's not police involvement because it's not actually theft, but where's the follow-up? Now this poor elderly person still is being abused in a way. So that was where Crime Stoppers is coming in, and they're starting to partner now with these different organizations that once one of those calls come in, they can say, okay, well, this isn't a police thing, but you know what? I'm going to send it to, I don't know, the Alzheimer's Society or whichever organization that is actually going to go to. So that's the biggest program they've been working on for the last few years. And they just submitted for more grant money so they can hire another staff to really keep it going.
Oh, that is brilliant. That is brilliant because that is a hidden crime because the
Yeah.
seniors don't talk. If they're being abused by, and most of it is done by loved ones
Yes.
that are taking advantage of them, or their money or their social security or whatever they're getting, um, they don't talk because they don't want to get abused even more,
Exactly.
or they're in the middle of or early stages of Alzheimer's or something like that. So it is
Right.
that's a really cool thing. The other thing I was curious to know, since you've been doing research on this, if they're getting into is the DNA stuff of looking at um, finding DNA of individuals. Have you heard about this? What they're doing now?
Not really. Like I feel like something sounds familiar, but tell me more.
Well, well, it was so funny. There was a kid who was his son owned a restaurant, and so he was cooking at the restaurant. Then his dad had two restaurants, and so he went and ran one, and this kid ran the other one. So I got to know him pretty well. And turns out that when he was 14, that he killed a 12-year-old girl. I never knew that. He did not mention anything about that.
Well, no, I
But
don't imagine he would.
no, it wasn't a thing to, be bragging about that. But what what they did was they told him, they sent him a letter, and they sent a bunch of people this letter that said, "You have won X, and all you need to do is send in via this envelope your information, and we'll send you a check," kind of thing. So he did that, and he licked the envelope, sent it to them, and they pulled his DNA from the envelope.
So it's like a sting.
Yeah, it was like a sting operation, and because they now have DNA, and they could match the DNA from the crime scene to him that they never would have done otherwise. And I saw him as they let him away after he was sentenced to, I think it was 15 years, and he was kicking trash cans, and he was yelling and screaming because he thought he'd gotten away clean.
Yeah.
And finally, and there was a cold case. But they're doing that more and more and more and more, and I'm really glad to see it.
Yeah, that is so good. Well, that's the thing. People think they get away with it. And it's like, okay, you might have for now, but as science catches up to things, right, you're going to get caught eventually.
Well, and, I cannot imagine. For me, it's not in my comprehension to think about, well, I'm going to go kill this person.
Right?
It's not in my brain that's even a possibility
Yeah.
of. I mean, I've thought about it in
In
somebody
the
who
sense, I
really,
hate you so much.
yeah, in this, somebody really did me wrong, like, I don't know, sleep with my wife, which, anyway, but, so it wa I mean, that's one of those things that is pretty, pretty cut and dried and not really very forgivable. And, but at the same time, I don't own any guns. I don't want to own any guns, and so
Wait,
it
you're
could be a fun.
American.
I know. There's oh, I got to tell you a quick story. I was working for Simmons Foods, which is in Arkansas, and so in Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and so everybody down there kind of talks like this. I was from the left coast, way out there in Seattle, and I was standing in a cubicle with 3 or 4 of the other sales guys, and they were all from the area. And they were talking about their pistol that they had. I just got me a 9mm. You should see this thing. It's just gorgeous. And the other guy said, "Yeah, I took my 30-06 and was shooting my water moccasins out of my creek and stuff." And they looked at me and said, "So, what kind of guns do you have out there on the left coast of Seattle?" And I said, "I don't have any guns." "You what? I don't. How can you not have any guns in your house? Don't you feel, like naked and not protected?" And it's like, I've never had anybody bother me in my entire life.
Yeah.
And but that's, so I'm apparently, there are 400, there are 340 million people in the United States, and there are over 400 million guns. So
Yeah.
somebody has got a lot of guns.
Mhm. Yeah, actually, my husband and I were just talking about that the other day, how there's, like, I don't remember the stat, but it's, like, 3 guns to each one person in the States or something crazy like that, so somebody has your 3 guns then.
Yeah, see, they've got that, mine plus theirs.
Yeah,
And so they have
exactly.
6. And
Oh my goodness.
I had a guy, he had a house down the street from ours, and he had a home invasion. And it's like they went into his home, and the police report, it was like, and they stole cash and guns. See, he had a catering business. He had a catering truck that would pull up in front of his house every night after they had worked all day,
Yeah.
um, doing lunches and stuff. And he had a rack of several guns. So if you're going to set yourself up as somebody that has got all of these things that other people want to steal, then you may get a home invasion. But they could come into my house and they'd go, "Well, fuck, there's nothing here. I don't.
Right?
There's no point in messing around with this."
Yeah.
So
They're gonna come
so
in my house and start sneezing. They're gonna be allergic to all my animals. That's my plan.
how many
Allergies.
how many animals do you have?
7. I
Let
have
me
I have
guess.
okay.
3 dogs and 4 cats.
Yes, you remember. I'm certain I've said it before.
I'm sure you have. I don't remember that you've said it
But
before,
it's
but
see, it's just there. You don't remember that you remember, but it's
it must be. It must be. What kind of dogs are they?
there. So one is a lab, a black lab.
I love Labradors.
He is the sweetest thing. He's actually my kid's service dog. He is 11 years old now, and he definitely acts his age. And then we have a beagle, but she's like half the size of a regular beagle. Like she's very small, maybe the rent of a litter or something. She is also 11. They came from the same place. And then we have a puppy who is 90 pounds.
Holy mackerel.
He is a shepherd mixed with a little bit of husky. So we did DNA tests on all of them. So he's mostly shepherd, a little bit of husky.
Holy mackerel. How he's a puppy. How old a puppy is
He
he?
is 1.5.
Oh, he's gonna be over 100 pounds before he's done maturing.
Oh yeah, he is giant. When we got him when he was only about 8 weeks old, and his paws were just giant already. And we're like, oh, you're gonna be a big dog. and, but it was funny because he so we got all of our dogs through rescues, and he never knew he was a rescue dog, of course. Not that they necessarily know, but um he was born at the foster mom's house. Like, so his mom came over from, I think it was Winnipeg, so west of me. And so they came over. His mom was pregnant. He was the only puppy that she had that survived the litter. And he was born on my son's 15th birthday.
Wow, he's probably the only one that survived because he was first, and with those paws, everybody else, she
Right?
could, yeah. Just, yeah, I didn't tell you since the last time we talked. I got a dog.
You got a puppy? What kind of puppy?
Well, I went. It was a. I went to the Humane Society, and she was a rescue, a 2-year-old rescue, and she was a a kind of a beagle's wire haired thing, and was very timid, and but I had to give him back. I had to give her back.
Why?
Well, because well, 2 things. I had her on a leash, and a little Asian lady. I live in a 55 plus community, and a little Asian lady came up to her, and she was being very quiet and docile, and reached over to pet her, and the dog jumped at her face. Didn't
Mm,
bite her, but he jumped at her face. And
yeah.
so I another lady, same day, did the same thing. This was a white lady, and did the same thing. And only this time I was holding the leash really tight, and he jumped at her as well. And so I had to pull her away.
Oh.
And then we were out in front of my little place, and we've got guys that do um, scooters, little electric scooters that go
Oh, yeah, yeah.
zipping around, and the guy was doing his electric scooter out front, and she wasn't doing anything until he went past, and then she charged him and nipped at his she didn't draw any
Mm,
blood, but she nipped at
yeah.
his leg. So
Mm. So she
so
needs to be like a only dog in like a quiet house with
a
no lots
quiet
of
house
people.
with no other people, no.
Yeah.
And but that wasn't the thing, that wasn't the final straw.
Oh,
You know what the final straw was?
what?
I was committed. Now the dog was not, they didn't know this because they didn't have the background on the dog, but
Mm.
she was not potty trained very well at all. And so I was determined. I had the day off. It was a Sunday. I was determined to teach her what the right way was and what the wrong way was. And so I took her out every hour and a half to
Yeah.
go for a walk, and I said, "This is what we do, and this is where you're gonna go poop, and this is what you're going to do." And so I did this like 7 times over the course of the day. Didn't get she went potty, she went pee, but she never would poop. And so it's so
We had a dog like that when I was little. That's why I'm laughing. My mom had to get rid of him because she's like, he just won't poop outside.
and so, the last time I said, "Now come on, you haven't pooped yet." This is like 6 o'clock at night, and she looked at me and said, "Oh, I'm fine. Don't worry about me." And so I took her back in. I had some work to do in my office, and for about a half hour, and I walked back out to the living room where she had pooped before. I even bought a one of those pooping mats or dog
Oh,
mats.
yeah.
She pooped next to it. So she would poop on it. So after 45 minutes of being in my office, I went out there and there was a brand new steaming pile. There was just, and she looked at me like, "See, look what I did. Look, I don't have to listen to you." So it was like, well, guess what, kid? You need to be in a place where they don't care. And I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not going to be picking up your poop every day for the rest of your life and mine. So
So you need to go get a different puppy. That one just wasn't suited to you.
I do need to. Because I really love dogs. Now maybe 3 for me is too much because I don't have a yard. But if you've
Yes,
got
we
a
have a very big yard.
so that helps.
Yeah.
But I do need what I did benefit from is from the exercise of
Yeah.
walking the dog several times a day. I just don't want them jumping at people trying to chase somebody down and
Yeah.
stuff like that because it was almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde behavior.
Yeah, my beagle, she hates wheels. So like if somebody's riding a bike or like skateboards are the worst because they're really loud. But like if somebody with wheels is going by, I have to like really hold her because she just does not like them.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I didn't have any history on this dog, so I don't have any idea what its background was. It
Hmm.
looked like it had had a litter,
Mm,
um, but I don't know that for a fact. But so I took her back, and they were very nice, and they took her back. But I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to get a dog or a little cat or something. And
I mean, cats are easy. I got 4 of them. Cats are easy. They just do their own thing. You just gotta clean out their litter box. That's my husband's job.
see, I like that because you can take a kitten that's 8, 10 weeks, 12 weeks old. You can put them in the litter box and they go, "Oh, this is where I go. Okay, great." And that's what they do for the rest of time is they
Yep.
they they go to the litter box because it's like, "Hey,
Unless they get
hey."
pissed off at you.
Oh
Because
yeah,
cats will hold a grudge and they will pee on something that you like just to prove the point that they are the boss.
they used to pee on in my wife's shoes.
Yeah, because they were proving some kind of point. Like, I don't like you, lady.
It was like, "You need to change my litter box more often than you are now, because I'm
Hmm.
tired of pooping on poop." So,
Yes.
so
Oh, exactly. My husband scoops it every night. We have more than one litter box. We also have a litter box on the so they mostly stay upstairs. So we have multiple upstairs. We have another one on the main floor, and we have another one in the basement in case they sneak down to the basement. Because yeah, they gotta have room to go.
they do, and you know what have you thought about putting, like, a magazine rack next to it?
It might help them, yeah.
Yeah, and if they had thumbs, they could but cats can mess around and open a magazine
Oh
and read
yeah.
it while yeah, so, I'm being silly, of course. So,
Oh, but they totally
um
could. Also, they like to just knock stuff off. So I just like to keep stuff on my desk just so they knock it off.
That and they will.
Mm.
That's what they do. Randi-lee Bowslaugh is our guest, and I wanna play this, film. Can
Yes,
we
yes, play it. Or
and
else we'll keep talking forever.
I know, and, this is, Sisters J, and, they are a musical group that, and by the way, I learned this about their producer. His name is, Ted, Perlman. Have you ever heard that name?
No.
He produced for, like, Bob Dylan and Whitney
Oh,
Houston,
he's a
and
big name.
He's been in the business and has worked with some really powerful people, and he swears to me, he said this yesterday, these are the best 2 he's ever worked with. Um, so and that includes, of course, Whitney Houston had a wonderful voice, but she was dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And these girls are, they really care. So, let me play this, and we'll come back
Play
and
the video.
yes, something I was gonna say. Oh, never mind. So let me, let me play the video. And this is Sisters J, and the song is entitled "Breathe In."
Lay your head down beside me. Release all of your worries. Pay no mind to the things that keep you up at night. Tune out all of the demons. Their words mean nothing here. Breathe in and out and remember all the things that make you who you are. Breathe in and remember all the things that make you who you Remember how I held you, your embrace against mine. Heart to heart, just forget the world. That's what you told me. You said you loved me, and I can't make sense of it at all. Breathe in and out and remember all the things that make you who you are. Breathe in
and that is Sisters J. And you know that the young man in the red shirt that was running down the hill and decided to drop on his butt. Yeah, I think he regretted that part. But,
Maybe.
you know, an impulsive thing that you do, and it's like maybe I should have done that. So anyway, because you got that. Now, where do you know Mary from?
She came on my show.
Oh, very cool.
Yes, and then I'm pretty certain I've reviewed one of her books way back when. She was one of my first guests way back when.
She's a remarkable lady, as is the whole family. So it's fun. You know, we travel in the same circles. We get to interview some of the same people.
I know, it's pretty cool when you drop a name and like, oh, I know that name.
Yeah, and it really is. Who's your favorite guest of all time that you've ever had?
Oh, that's a toughie.
Not to single anybody out, but I mean,
I am gonna say, now I'm gonna feel bad though because
now,
there's
I
been so
changed my
many
mind.
good
Don't
ones.
answer.
Yeah,
Don't answer that.
no, because there's too many names to say. I know.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's interesting because I did the math the other day. Do you know I've done over 2,000 interviews?
Holy moly! You're beating me.
Well, you got time to catch up because I'm slowing down in my old age.
Oh, psh.
Pshaw. Yeah, no. So, Randy, is there anything else? Randi-lee, actually, is there anything else that you'd like to bring up? I want to take a moment and have you say and tell our audience anything that you would like them to know.
Well, I would love if they would hop over to my channel as well and subscribe, because if you like Positive Talk Radio, then you will definitely like the Ride or Die show. It's all about positivity, and we're talking about mental health over there. So if you want to head over on YouTube, it's actually under RB Media, because I have multiple shows there. Including Our Neurodiverse World is on there. And I have another channel that I'm going to eventually move all the videos over, I think. So they're all on one channel. So go over RB Media, because if you like Positive Talk Radio, you're going to like that one too.
RV Media.
RB, sorry.
RB Media.
Gotcha. I talk really fast.
That's why I made you talk slower then. R as in Randi-lee Bowslaugh Media.
Exactly.
But RB, just like mine is KM Media.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can go there and you can go to Randi-lee's website, and she does a beautiful job. And one of these days I'll be good enough that she'll invite me on her show. Actually, she has.
Yeah, exactly. You just haven't come because you hate me,
Have you extended an invitation and I didn't answer you?
No, I'm lying. I think we've said it, but we haven't actually remembered to send it.
Well, the problem is I'm not an author. And
but see, now I have Our Neurodiverse World, and you could count on that show because you have a family member that has autism. See?
Well, that's new information. So there.
Because it's a new show.
Exactly. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here, my friend. And I want you back again because you make my day just go so much brighter.
Oh, I will definitely be back again. I always look forward to these ones. They're so much fun. I never know. It's funny because I've been on here, 3 or 4 times now?
4, yeah.
And I never know. I'm like, oh, what are we going to talk about for an hour? Like, I've been on here already a couple hours. And we just always find something. There's just always something.
It's because it is designed to be that way.
I know. But some people aren't as good at that.
Yes, it's podcasting. I've been saying lately, podcasting is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, I like that.
Some of us are really good at what we do, and some of us are just learning. And so it's just a different level of expertise, but because see you remind me of me in that you're very inquisitive, you listen well, and you are really interested in finding stuff out about people. So that's why your shows are every bit as good as my shows.
Oh, thank y'all.
So there. So anything else you'd like to add before I you've had dinner, but now it's time for dessert.
Yeah, well, now I gotta go walk my dogs. They are definitely waiting for that.
You put a 90-pound monster on a leash?
Yeah, he's a good baby. He's just a baby.
with yeah, 90 pounds, that's a big baby.
But he's so snuggly. He's just a baby.
Oh, and I love shepherds and I love Labradors and beagles can be a little interesting,
Crazy.
but yeah, that would be. But
She likes to steal my spot at night. When I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, I come back. She's always in my spot. I'm like, seriously, I'm just gonna move you out the way.
because you're bigger than she is or him,
right? I just curl up around her, and she's like, "Oh, you're too close to me, Mom."
It's too hot. I need space.
Yeah. So then she moves, and I'm like, "See, don't take my spot. Like, why get up when you are all cozy, comfy down in your spot?"
And I suppose it's the eternal optimism that she is hoping for. Maybe this time I'll get to stay.
It must be, because she's been doing it for years.
Either that or she just wants your attention before you go back to sleep.
Which is fine, but at 2 a.m, like, there is no attention. There's just right back to sleep.
Yeah, boy, no kidding. So Randi-lee Bowslaugh has been our guest, and thank you so much. She's an author, she's a speaker, she's an advocate, and go to rbwriting.ca and find out all about her. Thank you very much for being here. It's always a glorious time, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks. I love coming on. Bye.
So stay right where you are, and let me do this real quick. And hey, thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of PositiveTalkRadio.net. Please visit our website, oddly named PositiveTalkRadio.net, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we got.